Completing its path here, the Danube Delta flows into the Black Sea. Flowing along a 3,000-kilometer-long channel, the Danube is replenished with wastewater from cities and industrial centers. It collects tens of thousands of tons of pollutants from all over Europe, which then settle in the delta. However, after passing through the rhizomes of reeds, the water of the Danube enters the sea already purified. The Danube Delta serves as a natural purifier for the great river. The amazing lands of the Ukrainian Black Sea coast are protected by the Tuzla Lagoons National Park and the Danube Biosphere Reserve. The bridge over the Janchei Lagoon is a conditional border that divides these protected areas. Steps, sand spits that cut through and encircle the lagoons filled with seawater replace thickets of reed and thorn bush, riddled with hundreds of tributaries, canals, and lakes of the Danube Delta. Innumerable islands that have formed, dotted with fluxes, have become a true haven for birds. Millions of birds, over 300 species, flock here, and there's shelter not only for waterfowl. Rare species of birds inhabit the floodplain forests and steep estuary banks. European rollers, with their exotic plumage that dart from their burrows, resemble South American or African inhabitants, and there is a reason for that.
Очень красивая птица.
It's a beautiful bird that comes from Africa. People there pray to these birds. They are considered divine. Here they take up almost 100 kilometers of coastal cliffs. They are safe when nesting there. Nobody touches them. European rollers nest in burrows, like shell ducks. However, they don't make them themselves, so they have to settle in those made by foxes. So it's possible to find a fox brood in these parts. While their mother is hunting, the oblivious kids boldly venture out of the hole. Curiosity and the desire to see the world filled with smells, bright colors, and unfamiliar sounds is stronger than fear. The young foxes play peacefully in the sun, unaware of the possible danger. However, in these protected areas, just like on the islands of the Danube Delta, they only have to fear the natural enemies. They won't have to fight off humans. Here in the heart of densely populated Europe, these vast lands have retained their original natural appearance. The total area of the delta is 140,000 hectares. It is a large territory of 150 to 200 former Soviet collective farms. It is an entire wetland country, and people here consider themselves the people of the water and not the mainland. It is a special kind of awareness of the fact that they are residents of a wetland country, which has left an indelible imprint on their way of thinking, attitude towards nature, and the way people behave. These lands are some of the most valuable in the world in terms of biodiversity and have been preserved in their original form, as they were created by Mother Nature. Just like many years ago, roughly 100 species of fish still live here among the thousands of plant and animal species.
The
Danube is the only river where sturgeon still spawn naturally. What fishermen catch in their nets or hooks is all fish of natural reproduction. Large ones, up to several hundred kilograms in weight, swim up to 700 kilometers up the Danube and successfully spawn. Sturgeon is one of the most famous species of fish that can be found here. This rare endangered species, sensitive to water composition, lives and spawns in the Danube. Even though this river is considered the most turbid in Europe, about 400 grams of silt is contained in each cubic meter of Danube water on average. This natural turbidity, however, has nothing to do with chemical pollution. The Danube's water, which is obviously not up to standards in terms of turbidity, needs just a few hours to settle. Most of the particles that the fast river brings settle in the relatively calm delta, yielding to the force of gravity. Nutrients are actively pumped up to the rapidly growing shoots from the young roots of aquatic plants and reeds. Water lilies and newfars try to grab as much space as possible with their glossy leaves. Coontail shoots rise to the very surface of the water. All of them pull salutes out of the water, retaining silt particles on their leaves and roots. So the silt settles and the water becomes clear like tears, and the whole water world is visible, as if it were an aquarium. That's how natural water purification takes place in the delta. Huge reed beds are a natural Danube biofilter. Passing through the rhizomes of reeds, water from the Danube flows into the sea already purified. Like a live filter, the delta plays an important role as a natural purifier of the great river. 10,000 tons of pollutants settle here, which are collected by the Danube from all over Europe. But now, since Europe has very strong environmental legislation at the top, which becomes stricter and stricter from year to year, the Danube collects 70% of pollutants in the lower reaches, Romania, Moldova and Ukraine. Industry has basically disappeared here, in the Danube region. And those that get restored operate according to new environmental standards. Large swarms of mayflies, insects that live only in a clean environment, are proof of that. At the larva stage, they develop in a wetland environment, and when they become adults, they fly over the water like butterflies. However, the life of a mayfly is transient. Nature gives them just one day to go through the entire life cycle. Up till the middle of 2000, there were almost no mayflies. That indicated that Danube's ecosystems were not in a very good condition. Large swarms of mayflies, which were traditional for these ecosystems, only started appearing from 2010. It is said that the Danube has become considerably cleaner. Clean water in the Danube generates a near-water habitat. This is why honey collected from the flowering herbs of meadows, floodplain forests, and the wetland, smooth surface of the delta is valued all over the world. Original delta honey is in demand here in the Danube Delta. It is real May honey. The bees here have never seen agricultural landscapes. They're always in the delta. In autumn, when the autumn motley grass, water mint starts blooming, they collect fragrant mint honey, which is fairly dark, like diesel oil. It's very popular. Flying around many flowers, bees collect sugar nectar. Only bees can collect and store the sweet juice, scattered as tiny droplets. During one flight, a bee brings 30 to 35 milligrams into the hive, which is a relatively large drop of nectar. To collect a kilogram of honey, a bee has to fly out from 120,000 to 150,000 times, inspect about 5 million flowers, and have almost no time left to rest. In 2 or 3 weeks, it gets completely exhausted and dies. That is why queen bees, which constantly replenish the bee colony, are so valuable. It's not easy to find a queen in a hive containing thousands of bees. To do that without mistakes, the queen bee is tagged.
Смотрите, видите? Вот маточка, вот она. Вот желтая меточка, да, грудка у нее сверху стоит. Сейчас я ее отгоню отсюда.
This is a queen bee with a mark on its chest. It is picked up very gently, since it's so valuable. It has no sting, but instead has an egg-laying apparatus. It must be picked up gently, so it cannot be hurt, and wouldn't even know that it's been picked up.
Но ее надо очень мягенько, чтобы не повредить. Нежно-нежно. Видите, она практически не почувствовала, что ее брали в руки. Пошло дальше.
The duty of the queen bee is to multiply the bee colony. First, she gets out of the hive to fly around, then mates with 3 or 4 drones in the air. After she returns to the hive, she begins laying eggs. Depending on the breed and the state of the colony, the queen bee can lay between 3,000 and 3,500 eggs per day. On average, it's 2,000 to 2,500. The number of eggs laid is an indicator of how quickly she can grow a colony. The queen bee is considered the head of the colony, that's why she's called the queen. On the other hand, the significance of drones, who take no part in honey collection, is limited by time.
Пока идет сезон размножения, пчелы очень уважительно относятся к трутням, особям мужского.
While the mating season lasts, bees treat drones with respect. They feed them. But as soon as the season ends by August and the males are no longer needed, they get pushed to the outer frames. They become exhausted and are driven out of the hive.
Они становятся обессиленные, и потом их выгоняют с улья.
Apart from honey collection, bees have plenty of other responsibilities. Workers clean cells, remove dead bees from the hive, care for their eggs and larvae, and protect the hive from any invasions. When the time comes, young bees ventilate the hive or take nectar from arriving bee collectors.
Только что закончился медосбор, весенний медосбор из весенних трав.
The spring honey harvest from spring grass has only just ended. The bees have collected the most interesting May honey. Its value is in the fact that it was harvested from wild herbs. Traditionally, us, Slavs, like monofloral honey. Some like linden, acacia, or buckwheat honey. But from the biological perspective, honey that was collected from many different plants is the most beneficial.
Самым интересным должен быть мед, который собран с многих растений.
If bees work in sunflower fields, which are usually hundreds of hectares large, then the frame with honey will be considerably heavier, by up to 4 kilograms. Bees can't collect that much honey from wild natural lands. This honey frame is more than half filled with honey. Bees have started sealing honey at the top. This is sealed, fully matured honey. It can be stored in such conditions for years, while retaining its nutritional and energy value. Flying around dozens and hundreds of plants, gathering sweet, precious cargo drop by drop into the honey basket, the bees collect pollen at the same time. They moisten it with saliva mixed with nectar. Then they carry that precious cargo back home, usually without getting lost. Bees are known to distinguish 3 colors: yellow, blue, and white. Beekeepers use this trait when painting hives. Just a small reminder as to who the boss is. When you use too much smoke, that's not good either. Even though bees are able to stand up for themselves, humans have found a way to trick them. Like other insects, bees can't stand the smell of smoke. For them, it is an alarm that signals an approaching forest fire. The instinct of self-preservation forces the bees to leave their hive immediately, after which the beekeeper can freely take the honey stored by the winged workers.
Глобальная тенденция с пчеловодством сейчас возникает проблема уменьшения промышленного.
The current problem in beekeeping is the fall in the number of bee colonies located in industrial agrarian areas. That means a decrease in yields and accordingly a shortage of food. 70% of food is, to one extent or another, related to the pollinating activity of bees. Those are the crops that bees pollinate or feed crops used in meat production.
Либо кормовые культуры, которые идут на выращивание мяса.
The importance of bees is associated with honey production, but most importantly, they are valuable as pollinators. Therefore, the creation of reserves for the rehabilitation of honeybees, where they will be transported after working on agricultural lands, can become quite real. There, in natural conditions, they will be able to restore their strength and energy. This will be the next step for the sustainable preservation of the delta's rich lands. Nature will not remain in debt either. It will respond with generous gifts. Countless birds flying into the sky, crystal clear spring water, the glittering silver of fish catches, and the mesmerizing beauty of sunsets drowning in the river. Travel with us and explore undiscovered Ukraine.